Shout out to everybody. This is Kiss Shorty Gaming Nation. Um, Today's topic is the types of black women to avoid dating, a traditional black man's guide. Now, the reason why I made this guide is even if you're a brother, you're not particularly traditional, but you still have some kind of code, some kind of moral value, some kind of righteousness about yourself, and you aim to seek dating black women, and you want to create a family for the next generation. This guide is gonna show you or help you to avoid women that have certain characteristic traits or archetypes that you might run up at your church, run up into the date market when you're approaching them in the street, right? And I'm gonna break down to you the modus operandi of them and what's their intentions when they're with you, and really truly give something to the brothers that is going to help them protect themselves, right? Because really and truly, there's nothing you're going to do with the environment when it comes to black women and dating, because majority of the men, they don't want to fix it. You got men out here, that black men that are engaged in the 304ism, and if I come out and I speak against or hold women accountable or critique them, they'll shame me and tell me I'm insecure. Then you got the brothers that are ignoring the problems that's in the environment altogether, right? So for black men, the best we could do is protect ourselves when you're out there in the dating market and you're looking for good black women, right? And I'm also going to create a guide that tells you the type of black woman that is good to be in a relationship with, right? But you know, this video, like the only thing that as a black man you could do right now, if you decide to, if you want to be in a situation with a black woman and you want to get into a relationship with them, is that you have to protect yourself from the black women who are bad or problematic, right? So you can mitigate a lot of situations that the men of the past, like with the boomer generation and the Gen X generation and the millennials, my generation, ran up into. So really and truly, this guide is for the black men that's in Gen Z, my generation, and the generations that's going to come after, right? So hopefully the background noise doesn't interfere with the video, because they got some people cleaning the lawn and stuff out here, but that's okay. Let's get to it. One, this is a type that I've created. Um, I have a live video that says the Seraphina virus and how it's been used since the 60s to destroy black men. And this is the core traits. It's a shapeshifter, mimics pro-black or pro-man rhetoric, right? Hidden agenda, serves institutional power, state feminism, white supremacy, while pretending to be for black love. Modus operandi, dismantles male leadership from within the relationship, covertly disrespects male authority, ultimately uses the legal system, divorce court, CPS, false allegations to destroy demands, right? Um, Submissive at first, but only to infiltrate, right? So you see this what going on YouTube a lot with the Black Manosphere or the Red Pill, where you see certain women, especially that are black or white, right? That in the beginning they pretend to be pro man or pro black male, and then ultimately they're there to dismantle what's going on, right? Like I remember when you had when Black Manosphere first started, you had a lot of black women that were challenging what the black men were saying. And one by one, you saw a lot of platforms who were originally black, who were originally Manosphere talking points, no longer there. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be careful for these from these women, right? Serafina type. The reason why I say she's like Agent Smith is because in the Matrix movie, Agent Smith, when he after Neo beat him the first time, he and he was free from the Matrix. What did he start doing? He started to turn everybody within the Matrix and who were in Zion into copies of himself, right? And it was to destroy it. Like, well, for example, there was somebody that was part of the Nebuchadnezzar crew, right, with Neo. Agent Smith was so strong and potent that he was able to turn somebody that was from Zion. He turned that person that was from Zion, and he became that person within Zion. and he helped to destroy he helped to, I think he in the third installment, which was Matrix Revolution, he did do something to kill a lot of the Zion people in Zion that was there. He did some, I forgot what he did exactly, but Agent Smith was able to turn him. He was able to get into Zion, and he was able to destroy something in Zion to cause problems. Well, this is why I call this type of woman, a black woman, the Seraphina type, because that's what she does, right? And she'll turn your children against you. She'll destroy your kids against you. You know what I'm saying? And she'll create other little Seraphina type women that's going to go out into the community and destroy a lot of your men, right? The feminist Marxist hybrid. Core traits, fluid in academic sound and anti-patriarchal rhetoric. You hear this a lot of times in mainstream media. I believe, what's her name? Charlize Theron, or whatever her name was. She speaks a lot of that. And the whole goal is to overthrow patriarchy. Marxism is to overthrow capitalism, because capitalism, well, capitalism in general, even though it can be used by black men to get success, capitalism in general is tied to masculinity in general, or patriarchy in general. Like both of them are synonymous to each other. They help each other. They complement each other, right? Frames black male leadership as oppression, and then when it comes to equalitarian or matriarchal structure, that is to emasculate men. You ever notice that when these women talk about a matriarchal structure and equalitarian structure, it's all utopia, and it's this good place, but they still found a way to position themselves above the man and found a way to emasculate that man. Those men that's there, they always do it, right? They're in the beginning they're saying, no, matriarchal, it's a better place because the women are better type of people, and there would be no wars, and everybody would be equal, and it'd be this perfect utopian place. But you men are still slaves. You men are still above the women, and you got to do what we tell you to do. You see what I'm saying? Right? Hold on. See this? All right. Okay. Yeah, but see, and as I put in the bottom, they're always an activist space basis, right? Anytime a strong, like, so for example, like a lot of you black men that's part of the Black Panther movement, or you've been to a lot of the pro-black spaces out there in New York, out here in New York, in Black National Theater, you see this a lot. You see that a lot of the black women that's there. You know what I'm saying? And they're very active, very pro-black, but at the same time, they're always preaching against somehow they're preaching against black men and telling black men who are traditional, you're toxic. They always found a way to take shots at black men and masculinity. They only like the black men who are the panda bears or the simps that kiss their ass, right? So this type of woman, anytime you see this type of woman on in dating, you run away. Don't even continue, because her goal, like Serafina, is to overthrow your household. So you get this pregnant, it's over, right? The promiscuous 304, right? Core traits. Well, this chick is easy to spot, right? This is your Instagram thought. This is your OnlyFans chick. This is these are easy to spot, right? And they typically reveal themselves in dating, right? Now the promiscuous 304 and the gold digger, they're one and the same. So that's why I didn't make a type for the gold digger, because the gold digger and the 304, they do the same thing, all right? Core traits: hypersexual, emotionally unavailable, addicted to external validation. Modus operandi: it enters a relationship pretending to settle down while moving like a 304. Normalizes polyamory or sexual freedom while demanding monogamous loyalty from the man. Destroys legacy building because of spiritual fragmentation and lack of pair bonding capacity. Deflects criticism by accusing men of slut shaming, right? So every time you critique these type of women, you always view that as slut shaming, or you're toxic, or you hate women, right? And the reason why they destroy your legacy is because, again, you get one of these pregnant and you try to wife this up, she's still gonna go around and fuck around on you, and a lot of times while she's pregnant. You know what I'm saying? So this type of person is not a good person when it comes to having children with her, and having her help you pass down a legacy or a line. This is not a good type of chick right here. All right, like these are good for recreational use, but not to be in a relationship. All right? Black woman, right? This one is easy to spot. You know what I'm saying? Core traits: argumentative, defiant, maximal authority, modus operandi, undermines instructions, guidance, and leadership. Sees correction as control, resents order and discipline, cannot build with a man because she refuses to follow action or submit to structure, right? Um, yeah, so this type of chick right here, this is an easy black woman to spot. Like when you approach them and they suck in their teeth, or they tell you get out my face, or they hiss something at you, that's a disrespectful, uncooperative woman, right? Um, and they're like this in general to black men. So that lie where you pick the wrong type of chick, or she's like that way according to the type of man she like. Well, the thing is, if I approach this type of chick and she rejects me, there's two ways you can reject me. You can reject me respectfully, like telling me you're not interested, or you can be disrespectful, bitch. Black women are most likely going to be a disrespectful bitch, regardless of the black man that she's talking to. There was a brother. There's a current event happened that recently happened where this brother was approaching this black chick in the grocery market, and then he came out and made a live video, and come to find out he's a whole civil rights judge. He fought for women's rights and shit. And what basically he described is, yo, I'm a Southern brother, gentleman, older gentleman, and in the South, I say hi. That's I guess down South, they have a lot of manners and respect for each other like that, right? And they still, when he was saying hi to them, they still was disrespectful to him. So it didn't matter, right? And a lot of black men, like, I don't know, bro. Like, so this is why I started telling brothers who are of a certain type of caliber and righteousness or traditionalism, you can only protect yourself from these women because they're not going to change. And none of the black men in the black culture are going to hold them accountable to anything. You know what I'm saying? So the only thing you have is to protect yourself. If you see this, move the other way. You feel me? The weaponizer. This chick right here. This chick is the one that called the police on you, right? You gotta avoid this at all costs. This chick will get you set up or lose your life. All right. The weaponizer, system loyalist. Code Trace believes the system is a protector, not the man. Modus operandi has a history of calling police, filing false accusations, or using court systems to punish men. We repeat these behaviors if conflict arises with you. Use state power as leverage against black male authority. Often says things like, I'll call my brothers, the law, the state on you. All right. So this is the chick or type of black woman that a lot of like this one is like, so the uncooperative, disrespectful chick, this weaponizer, and the feminist hybrid, and even Serafana, right? You could have a black woman that embodies all of those traits, right? But this one in particular, by herself, she does this particularly, right? This is the person that does this frequently. You see what I'm saying? And like growing up in East New York, Brooklyn, I seen this type of chick a lot. You feel me? Um, so you black men, you have to avoid this, right? This chick, like how she reveals herself is she doesn't follow you at all, right? Like the common denominator between these women is that they don't respect male authority at all, right? But a lot of black men, you don't see this in the beginning because they don't present themselves as this, right? So this is to help you that while dating, or ask certain questions, like you would ask certain questions like how you feel about being respectful to black men, and how do you feel about you know treating a black man with respect and being submissive to that black man. Like how do you feel about how the court systems and how women are using the court system against men. Like how do you feel about that? Questions like that and shit. You feel me? A black man, you got to get comfortable with asking questions that society has socially told you not to ask, right? If society is not going to hold women accountable or make it socially acceptable for women to ask you disrespectful questions like what's in your wallet and how much money you make, you should be supposed to be able to ask them certain questions like, are you a system loyalist? Are you somebody that is going to call the police on me or create false accusations? You should be comfortable asking those questions on the day, all right? Especially in this time and day and age. The accountability dodger, right? We see this a lot on the internet, right? Core traits: always the victim, never responsible. Modus operandi: blames all failed relationships on narcissists, toxic men, or abuse. You see this type of chick all over TikTok. even when patterns show otherwise. So what the patterns that show otherwise would mean, like, if you're a brother or you're a black man and you are righteous, you're doing a good thing, and you're trying to give a law and structure and um, correction, she'll call you a narcissist. And the pattern will show that you're a good dude, and she just doesn't want to listen to you. So instead of her taking accountability on that, she just blame it on everybody else. Right? Cannot reflect inwardly or take honest feedback. When corrected, will cry misogyny or emotional abuse. Right? And will punish men who hold her to a standard. This type of chick will punish you for holding her to a standard. All right? So, you got to avoid these type of women right here. The unhealed woman, unprocessed trauma plus no growth. These are the chicks that would tell you to give them grace. Give me grace. No. Right? I've seen a lot of black men growing up try to fix this type of chick, and it never works out for them. Right? Still carries baggage from childhood, because all she's gonna do is blame you for some shit you didn't do. Right? And then now you have to now put what your wants and your needs on hold because this chick is broken from shit that she chose to do in her past. Right? Core traits: past unresolved, spiritually chaotic. Modus operandi: still carries baggage from childhood, exes, or past failures. Trauma becomes the compass, not values. Using healing as a trendy aesthetic, but not as a real transformation. And hold on, let me remove myself from here so I can see that bottom. Will bleed on you from the wounds you didn't cause, right? So this type of chick, I forgot, because they'll be on certain panels and they'll say certain things like, a man has to support me and cater to my feelings, and that's a vampire right there. That's the unhealed woman right there that's speaking, right? This type of chick is like, but I want to see Taji P. Henderson, because she recently did something about shadow work, but Taj and women like Taj, they fall in a different category, right? Red flags to watch for regardless of type. Overly masculine energy, aggressive demeanor. Anti-black male rhetoric disguised as truth-telling. You see a lot of this one going on the internet. Publicly disgrades black men on social media. Excessive praise for other racial groups of men while downplaying black men. You hear them doing that a lot. Identify as a bad bitch, independent woman, or alpha female. Open disdain for submission, cooperation, or male leadership. Right? So you see this a lot going on the internet. Right? And you have to ask these questions on a date. Like, how do you feel about male leadership? You know what I'm saying? How do you feel about, how black men are treated on the internet? You know what I'm saying? And you got to ask these things. You know what I'm saying? The Femabel, brothers in the church. This one catches y'all a lot. And I'm going to show you what you miss, right? The Femabel is a spiritual manipulative woman who cloaks feminism in scripture. She appears godly, talks like a Proverbs 31 woman, and may attend church faithfully, but her heart is not submitted to male authority. She inverts the divine order, placing herself between God and the man. She doesn't follow a man's leadership unless it aligns with her own subjective version of God. She cherry picks the Bible to justify rebellion and makes mass disobedience a spiritual discernment. She claims she's led by God, but she's really led by her ego, right? I've seen many black women on the internet and in real life at church, make her own subjective version of God. Like, so now if you say, only submit to a man that follow God, you have to ask her to define what God is, right? And then what she'll do is she'll pick out scriptures or take scriptures out of context that will justify whatever her feminist argument is, right? Core belief and behavior. Divine order distortion. Instead of God, man, woman, and child, she lives by God, woman, maybe man, right? So anytime you hear a woman say, I follow God, I don't follow no man, she's out of hierarchical order, because the child follows the woman takes instruction from the man, and man takes instructions from God. So if the woman is going to sidestep her man to go talk to God, she's out of order. This is why a lot of their shit don't work. This is why a lot of black women got to turn to like demons and shadow work and shit, because they're trying to overstep the hierarchy and sidestep man to go speak to God, and God don't listen to her. You see what I'm saying? Self-righteous authority. Believes God speaks to her directly, bypassing the man's leadership. Right? God speaks to man directly, and then man talks to woman. That's how that goes. You know what I'm saying? Spiritual loopholes uses biblical ambiguity to escape structure, discipline, and obedience, right? Emotional decision making. If she feels it's right, she'll override a man's logic or scriptural structure. Quote scripture selectively. Rarely mentions Ephesians 5:22, 24 or 1 Corinthians 11, but will weaponize Galatians 3, verse 28, right? So I'm going to go look that up, right? We're going to go into Chat GBT right quick. Give me 1 second. All right, new chat. So I'm going to let me do it like this. Share screen, chat. Okay, hold on. Let me make sure that it's on. Let me add this to stage, remove that, add that to stage. Okay. Chat GBT, can you bring up Ephesians 5:22-24 and then Corinthians 1 Corinthians 11? Then can you bring up Galatians 3:28? So let's see what Ephesians 5:22-24 say. Wives, submit yourself unto your husband as unto the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the savior of the body. Therefore, as the church is subjected unto Christ, so let the wives be unto their own husbands in everything. Right? 1 Corinthians 11, verse 1 through 3. Be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Christ. Now praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things, and keep the ordinances as I delivered them to you. But I would have you know, the head of every man is Christ, and the head of every woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. Right? There's neither Jew nor Greek. There's neither bond nor free. There's neither male nor female, for you are alone in Christ, Jesus Christ. Right? So this is what women would do is using to believe that there's no hierarchical order, right? And I don't think this is what women try to mean, right? So let me ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT, many women or feminists will take Galatians 3, verse 28, and they'll try to use it to make it sound as if there's no hierarchy between God, man, woman, and child. What like is this how that verse is interpreted? Okay, so here it is. Paul is writing about salvation and spiritual inheritance. The entire chapter of Galatians 3 is about how people are justified by faith in Christ, not by the law. And how everyone belongs to Christ is an heir of the promises given to Abraham. Paul is saying that everyone has equal access to salvation through Jesus. Ethnicity, social class, and gender do not limit someone from being justified by faith or becoming a child of God. It's about equal worth and salvation, not about abolishing roles or order. Compare that to the hierarchy outlined of the scriptures. The head of every man is Christ. The head of woman is the man. The head of the Christ is God. Clear hierarchy, right? So Paul, same author of Galatians, is clearly teaching spiritual equality and salvation, while also affirming there is distinct roles and hierarchies in the family and church, right? So Paul, right? So what Paul was saying is that, even though there's a hierarchy, right? Male or female are still equal when it comes to becoming heirs of his promise or coming access to salvation, right? But Paul is still saying that you have your gender roles and you have your hierarchies. Just like that's like working for or being part of the military, right? You all have everybody has structure and hierarchy, but you still have access to the military and the benefits from the military, right? So for example, if you're a private or you're a sergeant and you go off to fight in the war and you come back, you still get your retirement benefits just like if you were a general or a lieutenant or a colonel and you retire. So you still have access to the benefits because you serve the military, but there's still a hierarchy. There's still a chain of command, right? Same thing if you were working for McDonald's or you're working for PC Richards. You have the rookies, then you have the manager, then you have the salesperson. Different chain of commands and roles. But guess what? When you're working there for PC Richards, the benefit is that you get paid, and then when you retire, you get retirement benefits like 401k. So that's what that's like. All right. So let me go back to here. All right. Manipulation tactics. I don't serve a man, I serve God. All right. So when she says I don't serve a man, I serve God, she's out of order. Because in order to serve God, she must serve her man. Right? She has to serve her man because God put man in the head of her. The Holy Spirit told me to, right? No, your man is supposed to tell you. Right? God speaks to man and the man tells you. See what I'm saying? I don't feel spiritually led to follow that. What do you mean? You're not aligned with my walk. God gave me discernment. You can't tell me I'm wrong. So when these women ask you or tell you these things, you have to say, well, what part of the Bible or what word in the God that told you that? Right? If God gave you discernment, that means what discernment from the Bible or instructions from the Bible led you to do what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? And typically these women that say God gave me discernment, you can't tell me I'm wrong, they're always doing something stupid. They're always doing something negative or wicked. You know what I'm saying? Modus operandi. The fox submissive church girl clothing dresses modestly but deliberately form fitting tight hips, soft cleavage, styled in a way to draw attention while appearing conservative. This is how a lot of you brothers get fooled. Let me read this again. Clothing dresses modestly but deliberately form-fitting tight hips, soft cleavage, styled in a way to draw attention while appearing conservative. All right? Appearance: hair is natural, relaxed, or covered. Makeup soft but intentional. Jewelry subtle but refined. Often a small cross or gemstone. Energy aura: she's polished and articulate. Her voice is sweet in public, but her opinions are sharp in private. She speaks my fault. Shit, hold on. She speaks on femininity, but uses it to manipulate, not serve. What do I mean by that? Right? They'll speak about the traits of being submissive, and they speak about the traits of being loving and cooking and nurturing, but typically they use that on men who are weaker to tell those men what to do, to tell them how to dress, what to wear, to dictate to them what to eat. So, right, or dictate to them how the child is to be treated or how to raise the children. So they don't use their femininity to be in service of what that man wants to be done. They use their femininity in a way to usurp or disrespect how that man wants to lead. Right. A lot of you black men experience that from the church, right? Spiritual rule. The spirit of Lilith cloaked in the language of Esther. She claims to be a woman of God, but her spirit is equitarian, not orderly. She will only follow leadership that confirms her royal view, right? So she's only going to follow the part of God or the part of the Bible that confirms her feminist ideology, like how I broke down Galatians or what is it? Let me go back on Galatians 3 verse 28. They're only going to follow that if it fits her worldview, right? The good girl golem. This chick fools a lot of us black men because now I'm gonna break it down. The good girl golem is the child of Seraphina, and I'm gonna break down why. She's the type of woman who society uplifts as the example of a good, clean, respectable black woman. But behind the mask, she's emotional and manipulative, loyal to the system, and deeply disrespectful toward male authority. She'll never be caught twerking on the table or trashing men on the podcast, but she emotionally alienate a man's child, subtly control the narrative in private, and use public perception as shield. She won't tell you in public, but she'll quietly sabotage. She'll quietly sabotage your manhood at home, right? Core traits: public image control, clean, brand friendly, speaks softly, dresses well, smiles for cameras. Private behavior: undermines male leadership, gaslights softly, refuses to acknowledge wrongdoing. Tactics: uses silence, withdrawal, legal leverage, and public sympathy. Rarely fights, but always wins through optics. Allegiance, the court, the state, the system, not the man, right? She's a hybrid of the accountability dodger, the weaponizer, the system loyalist, right? The respectable mask, good girl image is the trap, right? So let me read these first. Always has the way to flip their narrative, uses children legality, and sympathy as shields. The system loyalist, she doesn't need to raise her voice. The government does it for her, right? Her power is in her mask. Unlike Serafina, who's a spiritual assassin in disguise, this archetype is more emotional and bureaucratic in her destruction. She destroys reputation, moral, and legacy from within, while looking like she's doing everything right. See, Serafina, she's not doing right up front. She's just she doesn't have like this good clean public image. She's just she disguises herself as I love men this and I love men that. But the good girl Golem now, she has a public image. Like you probably see this in your communities and shit. I'm gonna show you who she favors, right? The good girl Golem favors mostly Haley Bailey, right? A lot of black men, y'all was fooled by Haley Bailey, right? I wasn't because I've seen the Haley Baileys in real life, and I've seen them, be whether they're in church, whether they're at the job, whether they in certain functions or events, and they have that good girl image. They have that good girl presentation. But every time you hear them in a relationship, or I would hear them in a relationship, they're doing something completely different, and nobody believes the dude. Both the dude's family and her own family hates you because of some lie she told, right? Publicly, if this applied to someone like Haley Bailey, publicly she's seen as soft, nurturing, and wholesome, but accusations and action alienating the father, dodging responsibility, and changing narratives, points to weaponization of innocence. She's not loud or combative, she's quiet and systematic. She will never be blamed, even if she's the one pulling the strings, right? And you see that going on with Haley Bailey, right? You won't see her coming because she's been trained to be untouchable. Her silence is lethal, her image is your coffin. So dealing with the good girl Golem, and you see DDG, you see it happen to DDG right now. The only thing is that DDG has been smart enough to just move on, right? And he's ignoring it, right? Um, yeah, you gotta avoid this type of chick. This chick, to the pro-black niggas, right? Archetype to avoid, the Hotep Succubi. The Hotep Succubi is a seductive chameleon who weaponized African spirituality, metaphysics, and the pro-black movement as a mask. She cloaks herself in ankh earrings, waist beads, and head wraps. But her core is not divine femininity, it's deception. She's spiritually parasitic and psychologically manipulative, targeting awakened and conscious black men with lust, mysticism, and false light. These are the Kundalini energy bitches, the Grand Rising bitches. They always have that head wrap on chin around their head. These are the bitches that tap into voodoo worship or idol worship and shit. So you got to be careful of these chicks, and they very pro black and shit. You know what I'm saying? Core traits: outwardly pro black and spiritual. Speaks in terms like mother and magic, high vibration, divine masculine, womb healing, ancestral downloads, and goddess energy. This is the chick that we said I'm doing the work. You know what I'm saying? I'm putting in these. I'm doing the spiritual work. Watch out for that bitch, right? Overt sexual energy, uses her body as a tool of control. Freaking nudity, sensual dance, OnlyFans in disguise, right? Sacred sexuality coaching. This is the type of chicks I've seen over my lifetime in the pro black spaces. You know what I'm saying? Luciferian in essence, despite references to Egyptology, astrology, and Orisha work, her spiritual practices often mirror New Age occultism, Luciferian philosophy, or glamorized demonology. This is what Tahaji P. Henson is into with the shadow work shit, right? Hostile to biblical principles, always ridicules the Bible, calls it the white man's book, but will praise Alistair Crowley, channel spirits, and quote Bevelevsky. Now, I noticed this person's name, and I noticed they use a lot of his quotes, right? So this is why I put that there. Now, I was looking it up in the chat GBT, so I'm gonna look it up right now for you guys. So let me do this. Who is? So let me add here. So we look up who that is. Who is Belvesky? He's like an occult some person. Who is that person? Hold on. Let me see. Go back here. Bel Blavatsky. Blavatsky. The name is spelled Blavatsky. Oh, so this is who they quote, right? Helena Blavatsky. Oh shit! So let's look up who she is right quick. Oh, she. See what I'm saying? This is what these women, black women, look up. They look up white women. That's into bullshit, right? Helena Blavatsky, 1831 to 1891, was a Russian mystic, occultist, and spiritual writer who co-founded the Theosophical Society in 1875. She's one of the most influential figures in the rise of Western esotericism, New Age spirituality, and modern occult thought. Introduced Eastern spiritual concepts, karma, reincarnation, chakras to the West. Oh shit. Claimed to have traveled extensively through India, Tibet, and Egypt, where she was allegedly trained by spiritual masters or ascended masters, which critics argue may have been fictional. Wrote two major works, Isis Unveiled, critics science and religion while promoting esoteric wisdom. The Secret Doctrine, a dense cosmological and metaphysical text laying out her system of occult evolution. These are how these demons hide and shit, right? All right, so this is how them demons hide right here. Oh, I wasn't showing it to you. So this is who that chick is. This is who that chick is, right? And this is what a lot of those pro-black women they quote. They quote a lot of these occult people, Luciferian people, right? Anti-patriarchal anti-patriarchal underneath it all. Though she says black man is God, she refuses to submit to any actual black leadership. She promotes polygamy, but only in ways to benefit her, not structure, right? So when you hear black women in black culture talk about polygamy and how monogamy is not natural and that polygamy was in Africa and shit like that. What they mean is to say is they don't want to submit to the man. They want to be hoes, is what they're saying. Because now in a monogamous situation, and if they go by the biblical principles, they would have to submit to that man and his instructions. In a polygamy thing, when it's just bare bones nature, you're just it's like a cat, right? That cat is getting smashed by all the male cats in the neighborhood. You feel me? And the female cat, she don't stay with the male cats, or the male cats did. You feel me? What I'm saying, so this is what they want to do, and I keep noticing that's how they make their point when they speak about being polygamy. Not talking about because in Africa, when the African kings was doing polygamy and shit like that, it was all of those women that had to submit to that one king, and polygamy. So that even that had structure, but the men who were of lower class, like were working class or the common man, they were not allowed to have polygamy. They had only had one wife or something like that, right? So if even if they want to take it back to Africa with polygamy, there was still some kind of structure to it where they had to follow or be submissive to that man. You know what I'm saying? And shit like that, right? Predatory towards conscious men targets newly awakened brothers, especially ones wounded by mainstream of society or religion, and pulls them deeper into spiritual confusion through sex and mysticism. So, black men, right? Because you were being targeted by, you know, I guess you want to say white people of the past and mainstream society or religion, and these women will prey on that, and they'll confuse it with healing and shit like that, and through sex and shit. You know what I'm saying? So y'all got to be careful in those pro-black spaces. And a lot of you pro-black niggas will encourage a lot of black men not to look at these type of chicks with the side eye. Spiritual modus operandi, Kundalini trap. She weaponizes serpent energy under the guise of spiritual awakening, leading brothers into confusion, sexual addiction, or psychic bondage, right? Uses divine feminine as a cloak. She talks about balance between masculine and feminine energy, but subtly undermines male authority, turning strong men into arbiters or spiritual eunuchs, right? So the word divine feminine, anytime them chicks would say that, that would always rub me the wrong way, right? Because whenever how they describe it, it's always the divine feminine, but at the same time, it it's a way to undermine what the man is saying, like, by putting divine feminine. It's like masculinity is not divine, because I could say the divine masculine, and I could say the divine masculine energy is to tell women what to do and be dominant and be aggressive and be the head of my household. If I say that, they're gonna shit their bricks. You know what I'm saying? Or talk against it, right? Cosmic vagabond jumps between African deities, Hindu gods, crystal grids, planetary alignment with no true spiritual root. It's all aesthetics, power, and seduction. I've seen a lot of black women in those pro-black spiritual spaces do a lot of this shit here. This was back around 2012, 2013, when the world was supposedly supposed to end. This is where all that, and at that time, it was supposed to be like the age of Aquarius or some shit, the age of information. This is where all that shit, all that, the light worker shit, the shadow worker shit, all that crap, like from 2012 to 2017, I want to say, was where all of this shit was, polluting polluting the space, whether it be the conscious community, whether it be regular day life. You know what I'm saying? Even the church. Dangers for black men: psychic drainage. You feel mentally, spiritually, and sexually depleted after prolonged contact. Loss of purpose. Many men lose their sense of mission under her influence, mistaking spiritual indulgence for actual growth. False enlightenment. She pulls you into a deeper fog of metaphysical lingo without any moral compass, order, or sacred law. It's liberation with no discipline. She wears nose rings, cowrie shells, waist beads, tattoos of Anubis, third eyes, snakes, colors gold, purple, black, red, wraps or locks, sometimes dyed red or purple. Incense, sage crystals on deck. Always talking about cleansing energy. Uses terms like Grand Rising King. I told you, the ancestors are speaking. Yoni power, chakra realignment, matrix. Like, these are terms I've heard them use in that time. And like whenever they use these terms, it will always rub me the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing yoni work, or I'm doing ancestor work, ancestor work and shit like that. Cleansing energy. I'm trying to cleanse my energy and sage this and incense that and shit. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of these things, like using sage and incense and the such, a lot of these are tied to indigenous people, African ancestry, and African culture, right? And so these things can be used for good. The problem is, so let me use Chat GBT to help me explain what I'm talking about. All right, use Chat GBT to explain what I'm talking about right here. New chat, share, move, add. All right. In a prior chat that we had, we were speaking about African voodoo and African spirituality, and I noticed, um, especially when it comes to Black people or indigenous people, particularly Black people, whether it be Caribbean Black or Black American, they tend to tap into Obia, voodoo, or Orishas in these things, but they tap into the negative aspect of it, and they tap into the more destructive aspect of it, not realizing that when you had your shaman, maybe grandmother, or shaman voodoo priestess or priest in a village, those people took their whole lifetime to master certain things, certain spiritual realms, and they were born with certain gifts to do that, right? But at the same time, they knew what they were doing. They knew what spirits not to play with. They knew what spirits that to play with, and they understood that when you take something from the spiritual realm, you have to give it back. So a lot of these women that get into these things like the dark feminine energy, they a they don't have the gift to tap into that energy, and b they haven't studied that thing for a lifetime. They don't understand the good and bad things about it, and then when they get themselves into problem, and the people around them into problems, you know it it it, it becomes an issue. What do you think about that? All right, so you're absolutely on point with that analysis. What you're describing is a serious issue, especially in modern westernized and online interpretation of African diasporic spiritual systems like Obia Voodoo, Voodoo, or Orisha tradition. Right? Misuse of ancient systems without lineage or discipline. Traditional African spirituality was never meant to be a game. Elders, shaman, priestess, and diviners often come from spiritual lineage. They were chosen by the spirits trained from childhood. Understood balance, that you don't summon a spirit or use of force without paying a price, making offerings, or going through proper cleansing. Studies for decades to learn how to read omens, decode dreams, interpret the actions of spirit, and distinguish between ancestral guidance and trickster forces, right? So this is what a lot of black women that get into that stuff don't understand is that you, that ancestor that you claim to be talking to, that could be somebody tricking you or demon talking to you. You feel me? Um, So, right? Now contrast that with today. Many modern people are tapping into those traditions through TikTok, YouTube memes, and books written outside the culture. They're performing rituals without intention, permission, or initiations, permission, or spiritual discipline, often channeling chaos instead of healing. The emphasis is on power, attraction, revenge, or manipulation, not balance, service, or transformation. The rise of dark feminine energy without moral boundaries. There's a trend where women, especially younger women, are being encouraged to channel Oshun for seduction, but forget Oshun also demands emotional maturity and sacred responsibility. Work with Kali or dark goddesses for vengeance and boss energy. Ignoring these forces require humility, sacrifice, and service to truth. Play with the concepts of being a witch or high priestess as aesthetic, while lacking any understanding of sacred codes, taboos, or protections required. Most of these women and some men too have no spiritual covering, ancestral protections, elders, or teachers. No discernment about spirits that impersonate light or empowerment, but are actually parasitic or chaotic. The very egoic, consumerist approach to spirituality. I want results now instead of I want alignment with divine order. All right. You take, you must give. The law of spiritual exchange. In true spiritual systems, African or otherwise, you never take something without giving something back. Right? Just like now when you pick a fruit from the garden, right? You have to replant back the seed. I think that's a universal law and shit, right? You attract debt in the spiritual world. The debt may manifest as illness, mental instability, broken relationships, or curses. Many of these people are invoking spirits for power or love spells, and when it backfires, they blame others, not realizing they open the door without knowing how to close it. Right? So I'm not going to read all of this right there, but this is what a lot of these people in these pro-black spaces do or get into. Right? Oh man, my ears is itching me. Anyway, what she really is a modern day Jezebel cloaked in dashikis and chakras, a Luciferian priestess posing as a healer, a trap for the rising black man on his path back to God, or back to God, order, and patriarchy. So, black men, you gotta be careful of the type of women y'all are dealing with when it comes to this type of chick, and you're in the pro black spaces, even in the church. All right, how to defend this yourself? Does she follow any divine law, or just indulge in self worship and loose spirituality? Observe, does she respect structural male leadership, or is she subtly in control through her energy and sensuality? Test, can she handle correction and spiritual discipline from a strong masculine figure? Protect your seed, spirit, and mind. Not every melanated queen is sacred, but you hear a lot of you pro-black panda bear niggas. You call every chick a melanated queen. All right, she could be a whole melanated demon. You know what I mean? Archetype to avoid: the cultural witch, black men in the church. Again, be careful. The cultural witch is a black woman who openly practices voodoo, hoodoo, Ifia, Palo, Obia, or other ancestral-based occult systems. Not for healing or protection, but for control. Domination and spiritual manipulation. She doesn't seduce through overt sexuality. Her power is ritualistic, cerebral, and inherited. She's not hiding in plain sight. She walks proudly in her darkness. Right? So this chick is easy to spot. Right? Invoking deities, casting spells, and tapping into ancestral energies for leverage over life, men, and outcomes. Core traits. Publicly posts about voodoo, spiritual baths, hexes, candle magic, blood rituals, ancestral altars, and spirit possession. Emotionally detached, speaks calmly and coldly, not fiery or flirtatious like a succubi. She doesn't use charm; she uses will and fear. Worship Pacific spirits, calls on Ezo. So this is what they do, right? And I've heard them on the internet. Like one of them freaking Izzy Band's channel. Shout out to Izzy Band. She does this shit right here, right? Root worker knows the herbs, oils, chants, and candles. Would do a binding spell, open a road, open a road spell, or hex a man without flinching. So like, be careful, all right? She has a black candle altar in her home with skulls, photos of ancestors, and Haitian or Yoruba ritual items. Wears bones, black wraps, heads, and often walks barefoot. Tattoos may include fays, voodoo symbols, deities, or snakes. Talks about cleansing energy, but also openly discusses revenge spells and cutting cords through rituals. May not even be interested in dating. She sees men as tools, obstacles, or spiritual lessons. Usually respected in fairly conscious spaces, but rarely loved. Her presence is intense, not nurturing. All right. So, yeah, I gotta be careful, bro. Serious business. What she represents: a dark priestess archetype who embraces power, domination, and occult without apology. The logical end of a culture of feminism merged with ancestral mysticism, where the spiritual becomes weaponized. She's not confused, lost, or seduced by false light. She's willfully aligned with the forces that traditional men avoid, right? Dangers for black men. Spiritual bondage. You may not even sleep with her, yet still feel cursed, drained, or haunted. Mental confusion. Her spell work can create fog. Emotional disconnection or unnatural attachment. Energetic harvesting. Some men feel like their vitality is slowly siphoned. Not sexual, but spiritual. Revenge rituals. If she feels betrayed, she won't yell or cry. She will ritual your downfall, all right? Key symbols. Like camels, blood offerings, altars, snakes, bones, dead animals, grave dirt. So I already ran through that with you. Don't play spiritual games. If she tells you she's a rich, believe her. Don't try to dominate her. You will not win in that realm. Walk away quietly and cover yourself in prayer. Guard your name, your belongings, and your seed. Anything you give her could be used ritually. This is why when a lot of women come to your house, don't allow her to leave stuff in your house and don't allow her to take stuff from your house, right? Never entertain out of curiosity. That's how most brothers get snared. Just seeing what she's about. Just seeing what she's about. So, don't entertain this person. If you see her up front, don't even go on a date to hear that conversation. All right. The difference between the Hotep succubi versus the cultural witch trait: seduction, sexual mysticism; cultural witch, ritual power, ancestral; lust, self enchanting; cold, commanding, mysterious; highest darkness behind spirituality; proudly embraces spiritual; emotional, spiritual confusion; open spiritual warfare; worship style: Luciferian New Age blend; voodoo or Orisha, ancestral. Right? Archetype to avoid. Now this is um the Tahaji Pihanison, the heel demon, like the shadow work. This is what I call her, the heel demon. The heel demon is a woman who walks through chaos, Hollywood circles, sex, trauma, fame chasing, wild spiritual exploitation, and instead of being transformed by truth, she's become possessed by her own unresolved darkness. She calls it integration, self-love, and liberation, but it's actual spiritual corruption dressed as healing. That's Taji Panison, the heel demon, right? Core trait: spiritual rebound trauma. She turns her past darkness into a brand. Her pain isn't healed, it's marketed. Performs healing, hosts retreats, right? Sells tarot readings, do energy work, but carries unresolved demons. Now she says, I put the work in, I put the healing work in, the energy work in. Right? Merges with darkness, believes in embracing the shadow, but not transcending it. She invites it. Shadow work, right? Speaks in pseudo wisdom, says things like, I'm doing the work, I'm fully integrated, or I'm living in my divine truth. I'm telling you, I've broken down these bitches to a science. I've read them down to a science. I hear what they say. I look what their actions do. So I'm breaking them down for you, how they speak, right? Luciferian energy. Unfortunately, these type of women, they influence the regular women. So now the regular women in dating, they're going to speak like this. You know what I'm saying? This is going to be part of their language. So I don't know. All right. Luciferian energy. Glorify self-deification, self-worship, freedom from moral boundaries, think I'm my own God, right? Charms, the naive, especially, I can't see this shit because motherfucking, hold on. My fault. She talks about freeing herself from patriarchal structures while engaging in, hold on, that's something different, my bad. There we go. Charms the naive, especially dangerous to spiritual artistic men because she seems deep, enlightened, and central. All right, so this is how a lot of guys like myself can get caught, or guys who are more, I want to say, like creatives like myself, or guys who are, spiritual and shit like that. Like, because we're attracted to women that are deep, that are deep thinkers. You feel me? And we get caught. You know what I'm saying? We get naive to that. So now even me, I have to side. This is why I'm glad that I'm a Taurus zodiac, because most Tauruses, we're distrustful of everybody by nature, right? So I side eye chicks that speak like that heavily and shit. All right. Signs you're dealing with a hero demon. She talks about being a light worker or a shadow walker. In the same breath, she's been to I know what that word is. I just don't know how to say it. Right? But she's been to retreats, spiritual sex temples, or witch camps in Totem or Bali. You ever you ever notice? Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. Taji P. Henson. Shadow work body. Boom, let me find it.
Just a start in films like Hidden Figures, hit TV shows like Empire.
Yo, Tahaji P. Henson, she has a dark look. Look at her face. Look at the makeup. Look how she cut her hair. She has a dark appearance, bro.
And for her latest role in the movie Straw, she plays a single mother who reaches her breaking point. Take a look.
You're taking my baby?
She'll be in good hands.
She's in good hands with me.
That's what we have to determine.
No, my daughter is safe with me.
Teacher and the principal said she comes to school very hungry.
I work 2 jobs, okay? I work 2 jobs to make sure we have what we can to eat, okay?
Taraji, good morning. I have to say, the first
Yo, they're always playing these dramatic roles, bro. But anyway, let's go.
20 minutes of this are it's just painful because you really realize there's a story behind people.
Look at her side profile, bro. Look how dark that is. You ever notice that when they're doing this spiritual work, they have this exact same hairstyle and the makeup?
Pain and what sometimes they find themselves, the situations they find themselves in. Tell me about it.
There's always a why.
Yeah.
And that's why you should err on the side of kindness and grace, because you never know what a person's going through. We all have it in us.
See, so she now sounds like the unhealed woman, right? You're always talking about kindness and grace and shit.
To break or snap.
Yes.
I think what saves us all from that breaking point is a a support system.
Yeah.
That my character Janiyah did not have one.
No, she's a single mother. She finds herself at the breaking point.
Yes.
Straw.
Her
The
last
straw, the
the
straw that
last-
brought you to play this. And, you know, that's,
Yeah, but the difference is that I always had a support system.
Yes.
You know, when my lights were about to be turned off, you know, she carried the weight of the world for to go wrong, did go.
some surprises. We won't.
Oh, everything that he does.
Yes.
And I'm like, I feel like I don't think this is mine. I think this is someone else's blessing. He said, I got it. I got one.
Yes, yes, of course.
I was actually still working on Fight Night with Sam Jackson Thursday through Sunday. And then Monday I was right back on the set of Fight Night. But
I'm trying to skip to the part where she's talking about it.
you know, Tyler is the one who character to another and go back to that character because he came to me with a film in my part in 5 days, and I had to go right back to being.
He's like making you do like yoga stretches, but it's
challenges
yes,
me. Yeah, I love to be challenged.
Well, I think you deserve a little downtime after that, and I hear that I have dreamed of going my whole life. And you did a whole series there. You got to do like a travel series.
I did. First I went on my own for a month because Bali.
It's becoming your family. Well, I think you deserve a little down stretches, but it's
challenges me. Yeah, I love to be challenged.
Well, I think you deserve a little downtime after that, and I hear that Bali is becoming your favorite place. It is a place I.
Hold on, let me go back. Let me go back to what I was spoken about. Right? She's been to retreats, spiritual sex temples, or witch camps in Tulum or Bali. Right? So let's go play. Let's play it back. Run it back.
I have dreamed of going my whole life. And you did a whole series there. You got to do like a travel series.
I did. First I went on my own for a month because I just felt like I was losing myself and I needed to unplug and get away. And my girlfriend was like, let's make it a girls trip. I said, no, it's not about y'all. This is about me because I wasn't feeling like myself anymore. And I went to Bali. They call her Mother Bali because she's very nurturing. I mean, from the food that comes right out of the soil and the way that people pray over everything. It's just a beautiful place. You have to go.
What happens when you go by yourself? I mean, we all like.
All right, so let me show you the shadow work shit that she'd be talking about. $10 million isn't real money. Why it doesn't talk about her shadow work on here? Anyway, so I can't find it here. Maybe I'll do a live show. But we're gonna go back to this, right? But you get what I'm saying, right? Those type of women are always talking about going to some retreat or some place to Bali or whatever, or some bullshit like that. She's obsessed with her inner child work, but still chaotic in her relationships. This is why people like Taji Henson never gets married, right? She posts selfies with captions like "rebirthing through my pain" or "channeling the divine feminine from the underworld" and shit like that. She talks about freeing herself from patriarchal structures while engaging in occult rituals that would terrify actual African elder, right? What she represents: modern face of demonic feminine power, polished with Instagram filters and therapy talk, right? False transformation where pain isn't healed, it's romanticized. A Luciferian inversion of ancient African spirituality. She mimics sacred things but bends them toward ego, lust, and control. A Trojan horse in self-help and spiritual world, especially dangerous for Black men seeking healing or death. Right? Theologically in spiritual danger. True shadow work is meant to confront and conquer in a deep darkness, not merge with it. She believes in aligning with all parts of herself, even the corrupted parts. She opens herself and anyone connected to her to unclean spirits masked as guides. The danger for Black men is they confuse her deep talk with wisdom and find themselves bound spiritually, emotionally, and sexually, right? So shadow work, there's no true shadow work. Right. The idea behind shadow work is to merge with the weakest parts of you when you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to get rid of those weakest parts of you and strengthen yourself. Not align with them, not merge with them, none of that. Right. And you notice they'll never say what guides that they're following. Usually the guys they're following are some kind of demonic entity or force or whatever they're following, but it's nothing good. All right. The butch matriarch. This is your Priscilla Clark's, right? This archetype is a masculine presenting black woman, deeply embedded in radical feminist ideology, who despises patriarchy not because it's hierarchical, but because it's male-led. Her goal isn't equality, it's power inversion. She dresses like a man, acts like a man, wants to dominate like a man, speaks like a male patriarch, but still insists that male patriarchy is evil. The real issue, she doesn't want to end dominance, she wants to control it. So this is Charlotte Clark, right? She's the butch matriarch. All right, hyper-masculine presentation, sagging pants, sportswear, bottom-ups, locks or fade, hard jawline energy, right? Rhetoric heavy, splits gender studies terms like toxic masculinity, cis heteronormativity, structural violence. Yeah. Politicizes male atrocities, uses fringe male behavior like rape, war, or abuse to condemn all patriarchy. They do that all the time. Like they'll pick. I heard Priscilla Clark debating Candace Owens, and she was like, because of rape, patriarchy is bad and these things, but not realizing that rape is like 1%. Only 1% of the male population is raping. Right? Group victim narratives always presents women, especially queer women, as the righteous, obsessed class. Promotes stud supremacy, encourages lesbianism and stud worship, subtly or overtly as liberated love. Hostile to traditional femininity, sees feminine women who follow male leadership as brainwashed or pygmies. That's exactly what Priscilla Clark was telling Candace Owens when they were in that debate and shit, right? Seeks control, wants men feminized, subdued or removed, never centered or respected. Speaks like male authority, tries to dominate conversations like a street general or a prison shot caller. This is Priscilla Clark, right? Hypocrisy highlights. She claims to be anti-hierarchical, but wants to build matriarchal domination systems. Like, whenever women say they want it to be matriarchal and everything is equal, I bet you best believe that even in the matriarchy, there's going to be hierarchies in it. Because if you go to high school, right, or you remember when you go to high school or college, you had the popular girl that was the more pretty chick, and it was based upon her beauty, right? Then you had the nerd chicks, then you had the regular chicks, and the prettiest chick, she was the more dominant person. Shout out to Angry Man with the hyena analogy, right? The female hyena is the matriarch of the lower hyenas, right? Same thing with ants. The queen ant versus the regular female ants who are grunts. So even if there's a matriarchy, you're going to find the same problem where everything is unequal. But the thing is that they just don't want men to be in the position of leadership, right? She mimics masculine fashion and mannerisms. She slanders men for having male traits. She pushes for freedom while shaming women who choose patriarchy, motherhood, or submission. Uses trauma stories of other women to weaponize anti-male sentiment. They always use some issue of themselves dealing with a man that did her wrong to say all men are bad. You know what I'm saying? To put whatever happened in her relationship onto all men. This is what this type of woman does, right? And you hear them do it on YouTube and in these social spaces and shit. Often looks like a man, sounds like a man, but hates actual men in positions of influence, right? Quotes that expose her mentality. Patriarchy is violence. Men had their turn. It's time for women to run everything now. We don't need black kings. We need black matriarchs. If you're a man and you expect to lead, you're part of the problem. This is what they say. The only real men are studs. At least we protect our women. Man. Why she's dangerous. To young black men, she creates shame around natural masculinity and leadership. So this is your Tracy Ellis Ross, right? Tracy Ellis Ross, she doesn't want to date the older men in her lane. She wants to date the younger men to do exactly this. To black women, she seduces them into anti-man ideology while acting like a man herself. To community structure, she doesn't want balance, she wants inversion. To culture, she rebrands female bitterness as envy and envy as freedom, right? She's not new. So this person is not new, right? She evolved. This is the modernized version of the old school man-hating feminism. The militant lesbian stud from the 90s urban culture. This was your Queen Latifah's. Now she's smarter, more articulate, more academic, and even more dangerous because she uses trauma, race, identity politics to guilt people into submission. So this is what they do to a lot of y'all men, all right? They use this type of rhetoric to guilt y'all into submitting to them or giving up your guilt trip you into giving up your position, right? Because they can't just take it from you physically. So let me show my face. So bottom line, these type of women are to be avoided at all costs in dating, right? Don't date them. Don't get into a relationship with them. Don't have children with them. They're going to be no good to you or any black man when it comes to legacy building, or you want to, have a good, life. Don't date these women. So, with that being said, this is Kiss Shorty Gamer Nation. Like, share, and subscribe.